the beach. I've been swimming 1 hour every day, and I just feel my energy like perfect again.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm sure 5 days at the beach helped.
Good to hear that.
Right.
Right.
Are you there, Ajahn? No?
And I think I heard Kun M mention my name a little while ago.
Yes, he did. Yes, it's something about doing an interview with someone in Spanish.
With someone in Spanish?
Yes, Kun M will have to describe what it was, but yes, that's what he was talking. Yeah, apparently John is interested in having something in Spanish.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, he'll explain what it is. I'm not sure how it would be done, but that would be good, because now you've got the Spanish up on the internet. It would be useful to have. Well, you'll see.
You can record with your sister give you a help. Maybe I'm not sure. If possible, would you mind to do that?
To do what, Kun M? I didn't.
Record in Spanish, like Kun Ann done with her husband.
Record.
Oh, I see.
Record what you've written.
Right.
Oh, the translation. Sorry, record the translation that you
right.
did into Spanish of the COVID.
Right. You did it in a recording studio, right? And
I did. I found it really difficult with the equipment and trying to get it all, organized and the sound even, and I didn't really learn well enough how to use the recorder that I was given to do it with. But yes, it's not easy to do. I mean, it's doable, but it took a while, and it took with several of the parts, it took a little while to get it right. And the thing about the recording studio is, if you make a mistake, you can stop right there, and they'll sort of erase back to what you want, to where you want, and go ahead. And then you go ahead. The other thing is, after it's over, you can listen. And if you don't like some of it, well, he played around with it. Yeah, you can redo that piece, or even with some of it where words were left out or something like that. He was able to go back and insert them. I could never have done what this fellow was able to do.
Right.
So unless you really want to learn how to record, I would suggest going somewhere where they can help you do it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be good to do that interview. Yeah, the COVID one.
Yeah, maybe the difficult part will be to find somebody to also read it with me.
Would your niece be able to?
Well, I mean, she could, but the thing is to read well also, right?
Right. The other thing is, Roti, I did mine all at once, and then afterwards, Glenn did his part. And the fellow at the studio was able to join them, able to insert them. So it's not a matter of needing to sit down and do, you don't have to sit down together to do it.
Right.
And that's where the recording fellow was really helpful.
Yeah, I'll see if I can do it. Yeah. Thank you.
สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะอาจารย์
สวัสดีครับอาจารย์
สวัสดีค่ะอาจารย์
Morning, Tom and Bev and Tadao and Lucas and Nobodom. Sadika.
Good night.
Good night.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And it looks like some Azita's on her way. So does anyone have something they'd like to start with?
Yeah, I have a question to consider. Last week, there was a discussion on Sobhana Chittas, and I know that there are 8 Mahaksara Chitta and 8 Mahakiriya Chitta, but I do not understand what 8 Mahavipaka Chittas are. Sarah, do you not mind explaining what Vipaka Chittas are?
Yes, of course. So 24 Kamawatra Sobhana Chittas, as you mentioned, and the Sobhana Chittas refer to the Chittas that are accompanied by Sobhana Chaitasikas. So Kusala Chaitasikas, in the case of the Arahat, Kiriya Chittas, and Sobhana Vipaka Chittas. So the Vipaka Chittas refer to those Vipaka Chittas which are the result of Kusala with roots. For example, seeing now or hearing now may be the result of Kusala Chitta, but they are not Sobhana Chittas because they are not accompanied by wholesome roots. The seeing isn't accompanied by Sati or Sada or Hiri or Otapa. It's Ahetuka Chitta. So when the Vipaka Chittas are accompanied by wholesome roots as a result of Kusala Chitta, then they are Sobhana Vipaka Chittas. For example, during this lifetime, the Patisandhi Chitta and the Bhavanga Chittas were all the result of Kusala. So they are Kusala Vipaka Chittas. If they are the result with, if the Patisandhi had 2 or 3 roots, because for us, we were not born handicapped and there's the ability to listen to the Dhamma. So they were accompanied by 2 or 3 roots. So therefore, those Bhavanga Chittas are all Sobhana Chittas. They're Vipaka Chittas with wholesome roots accompanied by Sobhana Chaitasikas, such as Sati and Sada and Hiri and Ottappada, wholesome Chaitasikas that accompany every Kusala or Kusala Vipaka Chitta with roots. So that's why we differentiate between Kusala and Sobhana. So Kusala Chittas are Sobhana, but Sobhana is broader. It also includes the Kiriya Chittas of the Arahat, which are not Kusala because they are not wholesome, they cannot bring results. And it also includes the Kusala Vipaka, which is accompanied by wholesome roots, wholesome mental factors. These are also Sobhana. So that's why there are, in the Kamawatra realm, in the sense realm, 24 Sobhana Chittas. And all the other Chittas in this realm are asobhana. It means they're not accompanied by wholesome roots. So that means the akusala Chittas are asobhana, but also all the ahetuka Chittas, whether they're Vipaka or Kiriya, are also asobhana. Does that make sense to Tao?
No, it's not clear to me. Say, if we have a tasty ice cream, yeah?
Yeah.
Then there must be a aramana, yeah? And then that the chitta which experience that tasty ice cream or object must be kusala vibhaga, isn't it? I cannot hear you.
Your mind.
Sorry, the moment of tasting, which tastes the desirable object, the pleasant object, the tasting is kusala vipaka.
Yeah.
But the moment of tasting is not a sobana chitta because it's not accompanied by kusala chaitasikas, sobana chaitasikas.
Okay.
It's ahetuka, like seeing or hearing. It's just accompanied by 7 universal chaitasikas.
Yeah.
It's not accompanied by any wholesome factors. There's no sati at that moment. There's no sada. There's no hiri. There's no otapa. It's ahetuka. So that's why the 30 asobana chittas include 12 akusala chittas and also 18 ahetuka chittas. Ahetuka means without roots.
Yeah.
And of the 18 ahetuka chittas, 15 of those are ahetuka vipaka.
Yeah.
The 10 seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and also the 2 sampatichana, kusala and akusala vipaka, and the 3 santirana. So those are all ahetuka, even if they are kusala vipaka. So they are included in the 30 asobana chittas.
But Sarah, how can you know that? How are you sure that these vipaka chittas are not accompanied by hetu, kusala hetu?
So seeing at this moment, at the moment of just seeing, is there any kindness at that moment? Is there any confidence? Is there any understanding? Is there any shame in harming? It's just the moment of seeing which just sees. The wholesome factors arise of the kusala chittas afterwards, but at the moment of seeing, no wholesome factors. And then you could say to me, how do you know that the bhavanga chittas are accompanied by wholesome roots when they're kusala vipaka? Because who experiences the bhavanga chittas? So this is when we look to the great wisdom of the Buddha. This is what is taught, and it helps one to understand the intricate nature of different chittas now. Who can know now that the bhavanga chittas are arising in between each sense door process? So it's not a matter of having to know everything, but just beginning to appreciate what is taught about reality at this moment. Without the Buddha's teaching, we wouldn't even know that seeing arises and falls away instantly right now. But we hear it and we consider, and then it begins to make a little more sense that it has to be like that. But it doesn't mean that it's directly known.
Okay, say at the I-door process, there must be 7 jhana chittas, and when seeing consciousness, is kusala vipaka, then that jhana chitta could be kusala. And when they are kusala, how can you be sure that they are not accompanied by hetu, kusala hetu? I cannot hear you.
The seeing consciousness, like you say, is either kusala or akusala vipaka. And regardless of whether it's kusala or akusala vipaka, they can be in the jhana process. Usually akusala chittas arise. Usually if it's kusala vipaka, attachment arises. But we read that in the sense door process, any kind of kusala or akusala kamavatra chittas can arise. So lobha can arise. There can be kusala chittas can arise, like in the case of the Buddha, no attachment, no aversion, no ignorance.
Yeah.
So different conditions for those citas to arise, because the kusala or akusala citas that arise during those 7 moments, they are conditioned by accumulations, by pakatupa, nisiyapachya, and other conditions, different conditions to the seeing or the hearing, which is conditioned by past karma. So even though the seeing is a result of kusala karma, it's kusala vipaka, usually it's followed by akusala citas, by attachment and ignorance.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Sarah, does this mean then that really there's no way to know that whether the seeing consciousness is kusala vipaka or akusala vipaka?
Right. So at this moment, who can tell whether what is seen, whether it's kusala or akusala vipaka? Because it's so quick and it's gone. So we attach a lot of importance to desirable objects, but usually it's thinking about it, like thinking, oh, I'm seeing my friend, so pleasant, and there's attachment. But actually at this moment, who can tell whether it's pleasant or unpleasant objects? It falls away instantly. And it's not of any significance either. It's just the result of karma for a moment and then gone. And it's the same when tasting or hearing, like we have so much attachment to certain kinds of food. But at the moment of tasting, like something that's a bit spicy, who can tell at any moment whether it's kusala or akusala vipaka? Different moments following so rapidly all the time with so much attachment and ignorance and aversion in between.
Yeah. So basically it's not important. That's why we don't know.
It's not important because it's just the result of karma. What's important is the development of kusala, and especially understanding, not the result that we're used to thinking of as so important. Like even at this moment, whether it's hardness that's too hard, that's experienced, or softness that's just right, it's actually just a tangible object that's experienced for a moment and then gone forever.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Sarah, can I ask you another question?
Go ahead, Tadao.
I'd like to know the significance of classifying realities in terms of 5 khandhas. Why do we classify realities in terms of 5 khandhas? What is the significance?
I'll start a little and then I'm sure Ajahn will add more. So khandha refers to that which arises and falls away. And that which arises and falls away, like the visible object or the sound, we find it so important, but actually it's just a rupa that falls away, but we care so much about the rupas, what is experienced through the senses, trying to have pleasant ones again and again and so on. So any rupa is a khandha. So all rupas are classified together as khandha because of the significance we give to what is experienced. And upadana khandha refers to when any rupa is the object of clinging. And then, as Ajahn will elaborate on, the feelings, any feeling is what we mind about so much in life, having pleasant feeling, trying to avoid sad feeling. Like I was just talking to a friend whose husband died. It's the feeling that one's so attached to and the loss of one's pleasant feeling. So feelings are so significant, but actually whatever feeling it is, it falls away instantly, but it's the object of clinging when it appears. And without memory, without sanya, there wouldn't be any remembrance of what feeling it is we like or what sense object is desired. So sanya is so significant in terms of the clinging to this or that feeling or this or that rupa. And then all other Chaitasikas are Sankara Kanda, each one arising and falling away, conditioning life now, conditioning the understanding, the attachment, the aversion, quite different from the sense objects, all accumulated with those kusala and akusala moments. And then, of course, vijnana refers to citas, and citta, yes, without the Buddha's teaching, we'd have no idea that each citta is rising and falling away all the time. So what is the use of clinging to citta? And this is why each citta, each reality is dangerous and not worth desiring, because it's the object of clinging, even though it falls away instantly. That's how I understand khandhas, but I'm sure Jan has more to add to all these points.
Yes. Can we understand Dhamma in daily life? Because Dhamma is daily life. Or we can say life is Dhamma, nothing else. That's why we learn to understand, even this moment, what we are talking about. But it's not known yet. But learn to understand the truth of it. As actually, no one has conditioned its arising at all. It's there by conditions. That's why we cannot understand the truth of it. That what is seen now is conditioned. That which is experienced is also conditioned. Everything which is there must be by conditions only. And without talking about just one by one, there cannot be the understanding, the truth of what is there now. For example, if we heard the word kusala, akusala, vipaka, kiriya, and we have no idea at all that now we are talking about this very moment. Because life, when we know about it a little more, is just a reality which just go on. Sometimes it is vipaka and sometimes it is kusala or akusala. And for the person who is not arahata, there are only two kiriya chittas, which we don't know now. We don't talk about it now. We just talk about the cause and the result. No matter what moment, it has to be only one, whether it is the cause or whether it is the result. And the cause, we use the word kusala, akusala, wholesome or unwholesome cause. And vipaka is the result of the cause, the deeds. That's why from moment to moment, there must be either kusala or akusala or vipaka of kusala or akusala. That's all, no one at all. That's why when we talk about vipaka, we talk about the result of the deeds. While one is having coffee or something, what are there? See, no idea at all about the truth, whether it is vipaka or whether it is the cause, the new one. That's why we learn to understand from the enlightenment of the Buddha, to understand the absolute truth of each moment as not self. So for akusala citta, just liking the taste of the coffee, is that karma? See, can it bring result? Or it's not just the moment of ill deeds or wholesome deeds, killing, stealing, or do good deed, different moment, because just there can be only very little attachment or stronger, until it can condition ill deeds and wholesome karma. So there are kusala citta and kusala karma, akusala citta and akusala karma. So the result must be different for the deeds that has been done, which is not just liking or whatever in life now. But what can it be conditioned? A moment of like or dislike, just like very slightly. Can it be a condition to condition some result? But it's not as the vipaka that we know. That's why it accumulates the taste that one likes, the color that one cling to, and so on, as Pakatu Panisya Pachya, which Kun Jonathan, Kun Sarah, Kun Sundra can explain about that, or she had talked about it already. But we know that each one, whether it is a condition or when it's the result of that particular condition. That's right. When one likes something so much, music, painting, and so on, more and more has been arisen by condition, and even it's gone, it accumulates the nature of tendency to like or dislike such and so on. But it's not the result of a karma because that hasn't been done yet. We don't steal coffee to drink or so on, different degrees of attachment. So when we talk about life in general, there must be kusala moment, which is so rare, and lots of akusala moments. But as it's not yet the deed that has been done, it does not produce the result as vipaka, but it can condition attachment or like or dislike, whatever, from moment to moment, to be the tendency, the pakatupanisaya, to condition now at this moment how much like or dislike of that which is seen now. Very little by what? It has to be by conditions, accumulation from moment to moment in the past on and on till now. And that is not the karma yet. So when we talk about the karma, we talk about the ill deeds or speech hurting the other. So it has been done. So it can produce what? For akusala, no matter it is just taking the other's thing, just some money, or just like robber, plunder of killing, so on, the result must be different. But Buddha taught that no matter the deed which has been done is so very little or so very harmful, it can condition the citta, which is a kusala vipaka, the result of karma. And there are only, we learn, how many akusala vipaka? See, only 7. No matter it's the result of killing, stealing, or whatever has been done, it conditioned the result of it as akusala vipaka. Only 7, not more than that. No matter in what world, this world, human being world, animal world, and so on. But for kusala, it cannot be easily arise at all. Even one think of giving, but did one do that or not yet? That's why until it has been done, it can condition kusala vipaka. So the result of kusala vipaka must be more than the result of akusala karma. But you might think that we have, or anyone has done very, very strong akusala karma. But what is the result? Only 7. See, is that not enough? Only 7? Would anyone would like to have more? And what are the 7? The seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. 5, which are the akusala vipaka. At moment when that kind of karma, that particular one, condition the result to see or to hear, depending on in what manners it can condition the result. But just seeing or hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, in just one moment in that process, how short it is. But it is the result. It has to experience such pleasant or unpleasant object. No one can choose to experience only the pleasant object. All depends on karma. So we can see how many unpleasant happenings arising in a day. here and there and so on by karma conditions such seeing, hearing, smelling, the akusala, the unpleasant object. See, only 7 because this is 5 and there must be another 2. Sampatichana, akusala vipaka. Experience the same object by the same karma as its condition. No one can make or change the way it is. This is the cause and the results. And without the sampatichana, nothing can be known. That's why just seeing a moment, just very short, only one, just one. Who can imagine among many, many jittas now, there's only one moment of seeing, which performs the function of seeing, while the other, akusa vipaka, performs function but not see. See, like somebody, as soon as seeing has fallen away, it's there a moment of citta receiving that object, but it does not see at all. It cannot see because it's not its function. Its function is to receive the object. It follows the seeing instantly, receiving the object instantly, just that function and gone. And the next one is samtirana. See, we use the word investigate also, whatever we use, but it's there, not performing the receiving function, but another function after that. That's the end of akusala vipaka. No matter a bird see, a man see, a fish see, seeing is just like that, whether it's the result of wholesome karma or unwholesome karma. That's why no one can know at all. Because what is known is at moment of jhana, like or dislike that object. And even so, it's not only the perfect understanding at all, because at that very moment, anyone can like the object which is unpleasant, or can the object is so pleasant, but someone might dislike it by accumulation. That's why no one can say precisely that that object is wholesome or unwholesome, because it has a reason before the moment of jhana. But it doesn't matter at all because it's so short. Only that, only vipaka. But after that, the accumulation, which has accumulated so much for quite a long, long time, uncountable moment, is enough to come out after the kiriya citta, that can experience either the pleasant object or unpleasant object. So the kiriya citta is not the vipaka, the result of any karma at all, because it can experience either pleasant or unpleasant object depending on the seeing, whether it's kusala vipaka, pleasant feeling or unpleasant feeling. So what we call chavana is there enough to ooze, to come out, experience that object with what it has accumulated. 7 moments before the object, which is the rupa, which impinges on the bodies, has fallen away. And after that, if the object is still there for 2 moments, for those who were born in the Kama Vajra, the sensuous world, as human being, and the devas and the animal, has conditioned not to let go that object because it's the world of sensuous object. So the karma can condition the moment for vipaka, no matter it is kusala vipaka or akusala vipaka, by conditions, to experience that object. And the translation is like reset or something like that. But it doesn't matter at all, because the word just represents the truth of what is there as it is. different moment of different function of different citta, only once in samsara, never to arise again. And then Bhavanka, the stream of Bhavanka, on and on, until another process started and then gone. And Bhavanka, the stream, keeps on in this life. And this is everyday life that can be known. Only that which is, which is experienced, which appears, can be the object of developing the understanding of nature to understand it better and better. So, without hearing the teachings, without careful studying wisely, it's impossible to understand the truth that is it true. Seeing does not arise, does not see all the time, but since it arises more than the other doorway, so it appears as it's the whole day, and with some other processes in between, and the stream of Bhavanka. That's all. That's why we can understand that the akusala conditioned only 7 akusala vipaka, but for the akusala, for the kusala karma, it conditioned more vipaka, not just the 8 hetuka citta. It also conditioned the kusala vipaka, which we use the word mahavipaka, or we can say kama vajra kusala vipaka. It doesn't matter. But why we use different words? Because the kama vajra, it can condition only the result, which experience the sensuous object in the world. And for the mahavipaka, kusala has many means of kusala karma by way of dana or sila or pavana and so on, helping others and so on. That's why it's maha means many or much or more, not just very little. So now life is like this. Any moment can be studied to understand the truth of it. Otherwise, useless to just think about the term and the word, no understanding the absolute truth, which can be developed little by little from understanding only. If there's no understanding at all, it's impossible to let go ignorance and attachment, which can condition ill deeds, akusala karma, and kusala karma, very few in a day. It depends on the accumulation. That's why understanding different, each different one as only different realities from moment to moment. That's all.
Hi, Konsuchin. I have a question about 5 khandhas. And my question is, there are 5 khandhas, yeah? 5 khandhas. And my question is, how these 5 khandhas are depending on each other? How coherent or how incoherent? How these are tightly or tightly knit or not so tightly knit? It's what I'd like to ask. These 5 khandhas, they have to depend on each other, yeah? But are they depend on each other very tightly or not so tightly?
And one word just bring about a condition many thinking, many thought about it. But if there is clear understanding of each word, it can condition more understanding of what Buddha said. That's why having heard just the word, what is it? What does it mean? Is it true? What truth is it? And what did the enlightened one say about it? It's not one's own ignorance and think about that. So what is khandha? Whatever arises and falls away, never to return at all. This moment. So is seeing khandha
Yes.
Is hearing khandha?
Yes.
Is hardness khandha?
Yeah.
See? So we understand the khandha, we understand what we mean by sankhara dhamma, the conditioned realities arising and falling away, never be the same one at all. That is one khandha for each one, because it arises and falls away. It can be inside or outside. This person or that person or wherever. It doesn't matter at all. So as long as there are conditions for khandha to arise and fall away, what one clings to so much in a day, rupa khandha, in the rupa world, in the sensuous world, clinging to what is seen, what is heard, what is smelled, what is touched, and so on. See, example. So by way it is so great to be object of clinging, one clings to it. So there is the word rupa-tanakanda, combination of three words, rupa, ubadana, and kanda. Kanda arises and fall away, but there are two meanings of ubadana. The upadana is the cetasika which cling to that object, or the object which is clung by clinging. So for rupupatanakanda, it cannot be lopa, which is the upadana, but it is the object of clinging. That's why that kanda, which has risen, is the object of clinging, of ignorance, because of not understanding it. So there is clinging instantly to that which is there. As it's there, so it's clinging. So rupa usually is kanda. Only those who doesn't have clinging again, no matter what object is, that object is not object for upadana anymore. That's why in the day, what would you like? What everyone likes? What does one do in order to get it? Fighting for what? Hardness, softness as earth, as flower, and as food, and so on. See, only that. So it's so very important. That's why Buddha pointed out that it has to be known. Actually, everything which appears should be known. Otherwise, there cannot be the elimination of let's cling to that object. But we have to learn little by little to understand in truth what is that we cling to in a day. Food, pleasant thing, and so on. All day. See, it's so very important because not understanding it as just a moment of experiencing and then never to arise to be object of experience at all. Never again. So Rupu Patanakanda is one by its importance of the thing is so great. And the other, why does one want to get that? Rupa, for what? For pleasant feeling, right? No matter it's food, for pleasant feeling. No matter what it is, dress or flower or whatever, just for clinging. Everything just for that. So it's so very important. Thinking in a day, what is there? Clinging to the rupa, wanting to have it. Never less at all. More and more. Never enough. No matter today or now or next moment. See how great it is. So very important. So we want everything for pleasant feeling. So feeling is Vedana Kanda. Just to be reminded, in a day, what's that? So great for clinging to cling to. And without sanya, can there be such memory of liking so much that object, just wanting that particular one very, very much because of sanya. So sanya is there to condition what it's what appears at that very moment. For example, what is that? Sanya marks and remembers. It doesn't cling. It doesn't do any function at all, just to mark and remembers. A mental factor arising with each citta. Even right now, it can be known. That's why what is there in a day, which appear, can be known. But does sanya appear now? It does not. But learn to understand that it's there. So great, so much that it makes the world go on and on. When it has the wrong sanya, sanya vipalasa, no understanding of truth of a moment. When we talk about understanding the world, it means understand a moment, what is there. And there are not just only one. What are there? Can be known. Like sanya now, it's there, unknown. That's why Buddha taught to, like reminder, to make it known clear that because of it, the worlds go on for attachment, aversion, or clinging, or whatever. Keep on by sanya. So many things is invented because sanya and so on created. That's why we have the rupa khanda, right? Vedana khanda and sanya khanda. From then, other cetasikas condition, not just only three with Vedana and sanya, but there are other cetasikas as condition to be sankhara khanda, 50 cetasika, because the Vedana Jataka is with khanda and upadana khanda, and sanya is one, which is khanda and which is upadana khanda, and the other stetasika. Sometimes it's hatred, sometimes it's kind, and so on, or other to condition citta in a moment when it's right time for them as to be conditioned, and vinyana khanda. Now we have Rupa Khanda, Vedana Khanda, Sanya Khanda, Sankhara Khanda. The last one is Chitta, Vijnana Khanda, as the innermost, as we talk about last time. No one think about Chitta now at all. What is that? It's object of liking, disliking, viriya, and so on. But what about that which experience each moment? Otherwise, the object can appear right now. This is why we learn Dhamma, because to understand what is there now, in order to understand it better, until it can become clearer and it can be a moment of enlightened truth, Ariya Satya. And this is the path. So very, very subtle. No one knows that it moves on little by little to reach the goal. The truth of it appears to be the moment of irritation, of wrong understanding and clinging, ignorance. And this is life. So, what is the other question for Khanda?
Yeah. As for Kanda, since I do not know so much about conditions, Paccaya, I think like this. So there are 5 khandas, and they are quite independent from each other, from other khandas. But because of upadana functions as a glue. So because of upadana, these 5 khandas are joined together or becomes very cohesive. It's my own thinking.
When we talk about condition, we have to understand by what way. For example, now, we talk about Rupa Khanda. Is there any condition for it to arise? Otherwise, it's just the idea all about everything together. But when we talk about just one at a time, they can be clear about the difference between the reality which can experience, which has to experience, which arise to experience, and that which cannot experience at all. But there must be condition for its arisings too. That's why learn to understand condition after understanding the reality. Otherwise, condition of what? See, but when there is the understanding of what is there, there can be later understand the conditions, little by little, one by one. For example, when we talk about whatever arises must have conditions for its rising. Now, there is seeing. What is it? No one thought about it. But it's that now experiencing an object, and it cannot arise without the mental factor. We heard about this for a long, long time. But by way, in what manners? By way of arising together, each condition the other one. In that very moment, see, Vitakka, Phassa, Chitta, Sanya, Vedana. See, different realities, but each one is conditioned. And it is conditioned for the other two by way of Sahachata, Pattaya, arising together. But that's not enough to understand what is there, because there are other conditions too, because they are different. So they have different conditions too. Even at the moment of birth, Chitta, Vipaka Chitta, and Jasika, conditioned by Karma, there must be the Rupa, which conditioned by Karma to arise together with Chitta. Because in the world of Rupa, there must be the base for Chitta to arise. So Karma conditioned the Rupa as Hatayawatu and the Vipaka Chitta and Vipaka Chetasika, and the other two groups, Bhava and the Kaya Prasad Rupa. See, that's why we learn to understand each moment which is there unknown until there must be the Buddha who enlightened the truth. So compassion to help the other to understand what is there. Otherwise, nobody can have one's own understanding at all, because ignorance is quite so much in a moment that it cannot understand, even right now, how much ignorance is there, that it cannot understand the truth, that now what appears is only the object. So depending on what is the object of experiencing at the very moment, it can be Cetasika, it can be Rupa, it can be anything. That's why there must be the reality which arises, condition each other in a moment, no matter it is what kind of chitta or what kind of rupa, but rupa cannot experience. So that which condition it, arising with it, sahasata pacaya, together, but see what condition what. So very, very different, so very, very complex, so very, very subtle, before there can be the firm confidence of the truth, Satya Parami. In order to condition Viriya Parami, Khanti Parami, and Adidana Parami to understand it, no matter how much in this life and later in other life ahead. See. But the truth is the truth. And the moment of understanding is moment of hearing.
Okay, Kusujin. So as far as I understand, you are saying that even to understand five khandhas. Just knowing realities is just a half of the way. The other half is to do with pachaya.
What do you mean by half?
Half is just to understand all these dhammas, paramata dhammas, but that's not good enough. So we need to understand thoroughly pachayas so that realities and pachayas can be combined so that we can understand what five khandhas is.
This is what we think, but consider certainty of the reality that Buddha had enlightened. That's why, while listening now, how much understanding? Is it pariyatti or not yet? Because pariyatti is the skillful of understanding the word of the truth. Because now we are talking about seeing, but not yet the direct understanding of seeing, as at that moment nothing is there, only that experiences is there. See? So it's not yet that level of understanding, more deeper, more subtle than that. That's why understanding the word and have the right understanding, be true, be truthful to the truth of it. That is so true. Nobody can change. And when it's true, it can be directly experienced to the moment when it appears as only one arising and falling away. Otherwise, it's just a word. We keep on talking, everything arises and falls away. That's not enough. It's only the understanding of what is there now, but it's not yet the moment of beginning to understand only one reality directly is there with right understanding from hearing, understanding, and have firm confidence of the truth enough not to misunderstanding it as something as before, like soap or coffee and so on. So it's not half yet. It's only the first level, intellectual understanding now, developing until it's there to condition direct awareness. So it means that at that moment it's strong enough, it's firm enough to condition the moment of direct understanding what is there, and it's only one because of direct awareness is there. No doubt about any word because it's there, appearing to be known as it is. What we're talking about, sammasati now, it's not there yet because the understanding is not enough. Even there is touching, there is seeing. Is there any understanding of the difference of hearing and thinking, or directly understanding only that by little until nothing can appear with it, only that appear to be vipassana, so clear, comprehended the truth of that very moment, as one has heard before, no doubt about it, about the characteristic of that which experiences. We used to understand that there is nothing with it, no shape, no form, no sound, no smell. So what is that? No rupa at all. Only the reality which experiences. Even right now, it experiences, it's not known as it is. Just learn to understand it. It's there by conditions. So it's not half yet. It is the level of pariyatti until moment of patipatti begins. And that is the different level from intellectual level of understanding, because it begins to understand the characteristic of what is there now as it is by conditions unexpected.
Yeah, when I say half and half, I only talking about pariyatti level.
So it's not patipatti yet. So
Oh, not yet. Not not easy. Even 5 khandhas, to understand 5 khandhas, or to experience 5 khandhas, it's not easy at all.
That's why we have to talk about it first in order to have more understanding, to be conditioned for understanding what is there. Because what panya or right understand is now, but when there is no understanding, it's ignorance, not understanding the truth. Actually, hardness is not that which experiences it at all. Hardness appears to what? To that which experiences it only, not thinking, not seeing, because it's that which appears to what experiences it. So what characteristic which it's now experiencing is not known yet. It does not appear as the object, but there is the understanding, the intellect understanding, that there must be that reality for sure, because what is there appear without that which experience it, can it appear? It is there. So what appears because of that is a reality which at that very moment it experienced only that object, only hardness. And when it's visible object, it's another one, that which experiences visible object. And when it's sound, it's another one, that which experiences sound. This is intellectual understanding, because the experiencing is not known as the object of understanding enough yet, as is there now.
Yeah, what amazed me is that what we have to know is 5 khandhas. It's only 5, only 5. But
And what is life? Everything,
yeah, it's everything.
one khanda at a time.
Yeah, it's so hard.
Beyond imagination, incredible, but the truth is the truth, absolutely truth. And this is the way to letting go ignorance and attachment and wrong understanding. Otherwise, no way to let go the of self and ignorance and attachment. That's why the world move on and on and on endlessly when there's no understanding, because no eradication of the cause. So there must be the result. Samsara, Kilesavata, Kamavata, and Vipakavata.
Ajahn, can I ask you a question here, please?
Please.
You did say earlier that when Sambatitchana Chitta falls away, Kamma condition for Santarina Chitta appear. May I ask you that the Kamma condition, is it the same with the Anantara condition?
Different Pachaya, Kama condition by way of Chetana, which has done that deeds to be conditioned for the arising of Vipaka. And Anantara Pachaya is as soon as one chitta has fallen away, it conditions the next one. That is the function of.
So would both of them appear,
Except
Kamma condition and also Anatadiya condition as well?
what is
For
Anantara Pachaya? It means that after chitta has fallen away, it does mean that it ends everything. But there must be another chitta arising instantly after the previous one, which has fallen away, by way of Anantarapatyan, not anything in between at all.
Tam, each cheetah is conditioned by different conditioning factors, by different pachya. So if the cheetah now for example, seeing now, it's conditioned by seeing, but if the previous citta hadn't fallen away by anantarapachya, then seeing couldn't arise. So different conditions condition each citta to arise. And we cannot say it appears. Appears means when it is experienced or when it is known. So the seeing arises now and falls away, but it doesn't appear, it's not known at all. So it arises by many different conditions and falls away instantly. It's also conditioned by the chaitasikas that arise with it. It's also conditioned by support factors. So many different conditions lead to each Dhamma arising, no matter it's citta, chaitasika, or rupa. And we only say it appears when it is experienced. So the visible object appears to seeing, but it doesn't appear to understanding, it's not known. But the seeing now, it just falls away, it's not experienced or it's not known at this moment.
Right, thank you. So there's no way we can understand about the condition at all. For each citta arises, no way.
Well, like now, by beginning to consider and discuss and reflect, gradually there's a little bit more knowing about different conditions. So it has to be the right intellectual understanding in the beginning before it's directly known how each reality is conditioned. But now the conditions for seeing quite different from the condition for liking what is seen, because the seeing now, it's a result of karma, it's just result. There's no liking, no disliking in it. But the liking that follows, as we were saying, arises by pakatu upanisya, pakatu natural, nisya support, upa strong support. So the liking for this kind of visible object or this kind of sound in the past conditions more liking for it now. The liking of a particular taste in the past conditions more liking for that taste in future in this way. It's a natural, strong support to like it again and again, quite different from the condition for seeing now. That's why we said at a moment of seeing, what is seen is really insignificant because it's just the result of, the seeing is just the result of karma and then gone. But the harm, if you like, or the akusala arises with the javana cittas, the like, the dislike, the ignorance that is accumulated more and more.
Very good, thank you, Sarah.
Yes. Gradually we begin to learn more about different conditions. And I was just going to say to Dal, so if we talk about the cittas in a sense door process, for example, the first citta, the adverting consciousness. So this is a kiriya citta, and there are no wholesome chaitasikas arise with it. It just arises with the 7 chaitasikas and 1 or 2 more like vitaka and aditana, but no sobana chaitasikas like sati or sada or any wholesome chaitasika. So it's an asobana citta, asobana kiriya citta. And then the seeing that follows it, which is the result of karma, just arises with 7 chaitasikas, no wholesome roots. So it's a asobana vipaka citta. And then the sampaticana and the santirana, the same, vipaka citta, no wholesome roots or qualities. So they are asobana vipaka citta, no matter whether they're kusala vipaka or akusala vipaka, the same, no wholesome roots. They're all asobana chittas. And then the following javana chittas, which are kusala or akusala, the akusala chittas that follow have no wholesome roots, no wholesome cetasikanas. So they are also asobana chittas. But the kusala chittas, or kiriya in the case of the arahat, they are accompanied by at least 19 wholesome cetasikas, like sati and sada and hiri and otapa and so on. So they are sobana chittas, sobana kusala chittas. And then at the end of the sense door process, the tadaramana are like other vipaka chittas. So they are, and then the Boanga chittas in this realm, kusala vipaka, so they are sobana chittas accompanied by sobana factors. So kind of gradually we learn that, and then we can also say that at the moment of seeing, the seeing is vijnana kanda, and the rupa that is experienced, that is later the object of attachment, is rupa kanda, and the mental factors are vedana kanda, sanya kanda, sankara kanda. So what we're talking about are sobana and asobana chittas and are about different khandas, but they are just presented in different ways to emphasize different aspects. That's all. And each one arises by many different conditions.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. But about cetasikas, I have a question. According to Jatiya, there are 4 types of cetasikas, yeah? Ksara, aksara, and vipaka, and what? One more.
Kiriya.
Oh, kiriya. And whether chitta is ksara or aksara depends on accompanying cetasikas. If accompanying cetasikas are ksara, then chitta is called ksara chitta. And if accompanying cetasika is aksara, then chitta is called aksara chitta, yeah?
Right.
Okay. Then it's a bit odd because this type of classification of ksara and aksara is based on accompanying cetasikas only for ksara and aksara chittas. And how about other twos, vipaka and kiriya?
So the kiriya just refers to when, in the case of the arahat, because there are no more kusala chittas, no more karma, no more results. So we don't talk about kusala chittas, and of course there are no akusala chittas. So kiriya chittas at those moments of javana. So we don't have to be concerned because these chittas don't arise for us, only for arahats. So the vipaka chittas, which are the result of kusala or akusala, what's your question? If the result of kusala karma, the result is kusala vipaka, and that kusala vipaka may or may not be accompanied by kusala factors. We say seeing is kusala vipaka, but actually it's not kusala, it's just vipaka. By saying it's kusala vipaka, it just means it's a result of kusala chitta, even though at that moment of seeing, there are no kusala factors. So it's just vipaka, but result of kusala karma. And akusala vipaka, it just means the seeing is the result of akusala karma. even though there are no akusala factors accompanying it. So
okay.
actually, there's nothing akusala about the vipaka. It's just vipaka, but it's the result of akusala.
But in the case of kusala and aksara chittas, yeah, it's cetasikas which determine whether chitta is kusala or aksara. Is not true?
Right, because
Okay.
the chitta itself is pure, and only when it's accompanied by akusala cetasikas is it said to be akusala chitta. Yes,
Okay.
but when it comes to the vipaka, the akusala vipaka,
Yeah.
no akusala cetasikas at that moment of seeing, for example, so, or any moment. So because all akusala vipaka is rootless, ahetuka.
Okay. I have one more question about cetasikas. So in the case of Dvi pancha vinyana, yeah? Yeah? Like seeing and only 7 cetasikas are accompany these chittas, yeah?
Right.
But there's a classification of 7 plus 6, 13. So what's the name of, I forgot, but it's...
Are you thinking of the pakinakas?
No.
Particular
7,
fact?
not the anyamanya. 7 cetasikas plus 6 cetasika, 13 cetasika.
I think you're thinking, yes, you're thinking of the universals plus the pakinaka, the particular,
That
like
one,
vitaka, vichara, and so on,
that one,
virya, yes.
But
So
is there any chitta which takes only these 13 cetasikas? In the case of Dvipancha Vinyana, yeah, only 7 chitta accompany the chittas. But is there any chitta which accompany only these 13 cetasikas? If
so
there are,
you have to consider each chitta one at a time to consider which factors arise with it. So for example, apart from seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, all other chittas in the Kamawatra plane have to be accompanied by vitaka and vichara. So that is 2. And then you have to consider which chittas are accompanied by virya, all except for 15 of the ahetuka chittas. And then you have to consider why virya accompanies the other 3 ahetuka chittas. So you have to consider each one by one. So for example, the sense door adverting consciousness, it has to be accompanied by the 7, and it has to be accompanied by vitaka and vichara, but it isn't, and it has to be accompanied by aditana and virya, as I recall, because it's one of the 3 that ahetuka chittas that have to be accompanied by virya, but no piti, no. So each one has to consider one by one. Because piti, why no piti? Because piti or joy can only accompany kusala chittas or chittas with lobha, for example.
Okay. I'm not good at Abhidhamma because I forget very easily.
Honestly, to Tao, I've never tried to learn classifications, but kind of when there's a little bit more considering and understanding the reason, like when Ajahn said, okay, only 7 akusala vipaka, so we have to consider why 7 akusala vipaka, but why 8 kusala vipaka. So what is the difference? So one just has to consider slowly, like Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching can be kusala vipaka or akusala vipaka. Santirana, sampatichana chitta, which Tam Tan mentioned, can be kusala vipaka or akusala vipaka. So that is 6. But when it comes to santirana, it's another vipaka chitta. So it can be akusala vipaka, that's 7. But there are 2 kinds of santirana kusala vipaka, one with neutral feeling and one with pleasant feeling, piti. So it has one more factor there. So then that's 8. So just by kind of considering the reason is the way I think to understand. Otherwise, if it's just a number, it's meaningless and not of any value at all. And like the 18 Ahetuka cheetahs, why do 3 of them have to be accompanied by virya, but not the others? So, for example, the Manodwara Vajana, the first adverting consciousness in the mind or process, it needs virya because it's the first chitta in that process. So slowly we kind of begin to understand. But I think that if it's just trying to remember or just becomes a worry, it's not the right way at all.
Okay. Thank you.
Ajahn never told me to remember, and I've never tried to, but just gradually one just begins to reflect and consider a little more, like Tam Tan's question. What is the condition for sampatichana? Why is it karma and anantara? So one begins to realize that both these conditions have to have their effect in order for that chitta to arise, and other conditions as well. It's not just enough to be the result of karma. If the previous chitta hadn't fallen away, how could that one arise? So just gradually. But I think you consider the realities and the Abhidhamma and these details a lot.
But sometimes it's not as logical as we'd like it to be.
Okay, thank you. I have one more question, Sarah.
Before you go on, Tadao, just something you said before about the jetasikas that arise with the vipaka. It isn't all of the jetasikas. I think in particular it's jetasika at that moment that organizes. Well, actually it doesn't. When it's in the jhana, it can be a cause for vipaka. But when it is vipaka itself, it's simply that it just organizes the other jetasikas, as far as I understand. So just a small point, but you may know that already anyway. But
thank you.
No worries. Okay.
Okay, Sarah, I have one more question.
Go ahead, Tadao.
I cannot differentiate piti from somanasa, somanasa from piti. How piti and somanasas differ from each other?
Well, the somanasa is just the feeling, just like unpleasant feeling. It just feels unpleasant, quite different from dosa, for example. And the pleasant feeling, the somanasa, it just feels, nothing else. But the piti is like joy in the object. So because they arise together, I don't think there's any point in trying to differentiate, but what appears now, it can be piti, different from somanasa. So actually it's just what appears.
Sarah, can you give example for this? For example, like if I am hungry and someone give me food, So do I feel pity or do I feel somanasa?
Pleasant feeling instantly. And when there is pleasant feeling, there's also joy in the object. So it's not easy to differentiate and no point in trying. I think Jonathan was about to say something.
I was just going to say, pity is not a kind of feeling. It is a different kind of thing altogether. Like we say, chanda is interest in something. And we would expect it to be accompanied by or similar to pleasant feeling about something, but it's not. It's having an interest in. So joy, piti is joy in, but it's not the feeling that accompanies at that moment.
So when you are hungry and then somebody give you food, that's not joy. You know, you're happy to see food coming. So what is it then? Is it pity?
So many cheetahs conditioned in different ways. At the moment when there is attachment, then there is usually pleasant feeling at that moment, and also joy at that moment, or piti, which is different. And this is different from the moment of tasting or the moment of seeing. So each cheetah is conditioned by many different Chaitasikas. And if we try to work it out or try to experience one by one, then it's the wrong way again. But the nature of piti, taking joy in the object, is different from the feeling.
I think there's a kind of simile or analogy given in the text about a man wandering in the desert, and then he sees in the distance a pool of water, and he has joy at that moment. And when he tastes it, then it's pleasant feeling. Or it might be the other way around, I can't remember. But these kind of descriptions can be considered, but I don't think we can take it any further than that, in the sense of, as Sarah said, there's no point in trying to know when is it joy now, whether it's pleasant feeling. Understanding will know that when understanding is developed sufficiently. Trying to guess it by reference to the situation is not the way to go.
Thank you. Sarah, I heard you mention about the Sampatichana and Santarina, but you and Ajahn not mentioned about the Votapana. Why?
The Votapana, it's a good question, actually. Yes, and I did miss it out. The Votapana is a Kiriya Chitta. That means it's not Kusala, it's not Akusala, and it's Vipaka. So it's also Asobana Chitta. Now, the Votapana Chitta, the one reason we don't mention it very much is because it's actually the same chitta, the same kind of chitta as the Mano Dwara Vajana chitta. It just performs a different function in the sense door process. But it's a good point. It's also an Asobana chitta, a Kiriya chitta, that arises after the Sampatichana and the Santirana. After the Sampatichana and Santirana, which are Vipaka chittas, the Kusala or Kusala chittas cannot immediately follow. They need a stopgap or a chitta arising between those Vipaka chittas and that Kusala or Akusala, and that is that Kiriya chitta. Sometimes it's translated in English as determining consciousness, and this is a bit misleading because it actually doesn't determine anything. The main condition for the Kusala or Akusala is the accumulation or the tendency of Kusala or Akusala, the Pakatu Upanisya Pachya we've talked about. So, but if that Kiriya Chitta, the Votapana, didn't fall away by Anantarapachya, the next chitta couldn't follow it. So it's a condition because it has to arise and it has to fall away in order for the kusala or akusala chittas to follow. Thanks,
Thank
Tam,
you so
for
much.
mentioning
Yes,
it.
thank
Yes.
you.
I think, and I think Ajahn did refer to the Votapana Citta when she was giving her description previously, but she didn't mention it by name.
Jonathan, about Votapana, yeah? It determines whether following Javana Citta will be Ksara or Aksara, yeah? If it is the case, then can we say that it's strongly influenced by our Anusaya and Asaya?
The Votapana Citta doesn't actually determine the kusala or akusala that follows, except in the sense that it has to have fallen away, but it is not the condition that determines whether kusala or akusala arises. For example, in the case of the arahat, no lobha can arise. This isn't because of the Votapana Citta that arises before the Kiriya Chittas. It's because the lobha has been completely eradicated and there is no more accumulation of lobha, so it cannot arise at all. So the condition for that kusala, for that Kiriya Citta, not for kusala or akusala, is the tendency of wholesomeness, of sobhana, to the degree that all kusala and akusala no longer arises. So I think it's misleading to refer to Votapana as the determining. It's one condition by Anantarapachya and Samanantarapachya for the next chitta to arise, but it's just one Kiriya Citta. So it's not the cause, the main cause for kusala or akusala to arise now.
Tadao, yeah, I think Sarah is exactly right. It's been very wrongly or badly translated. That word doesn't mean determining at all. It's like a case of something that's been that way and people don't look at it carefully enough. And as Sarah said, that it's nothing to do with, it doesn't determine, that it's determined by, or she mentioned, pakatupanasya or habits that have been accumulated in the past, which is one of the conditions for that the next moment to arise, which will be the first Jawana Citta after Votapana. So there are often words like that that can be very misleading, and not only misleading, actually wrong. The word Votapana, I've looked at it before. I'm just trying to drag it up out of my memory banks. It's something like, I can't remember now, but it's nothing. Determining is not an accurate translation. It's just that people have seen that as the translation and have taken that to be as the translation. And even in the English, when we say determined, determination means different things. We say he determined to go this way or that way, or you can look at determine has different connotations, even in English. I'm just trying to give you some examples because I remember going into it at quite some length one time when we say, when we use the word determined, like being a very determined person is very different from saying this will be a determining factor. It's got different flavors to it, even in the English, and certainly in the Pali. Votapana does not mean to determine. As I said, it would be a contradiction in terms, and it would be wrong, because we know that there are many conditions. It's not just that chitta. That chitta, it would be very strange if it was just that chitta that determined the following moment. That just wouldn't make any sense at all.
Well, Sundara, so please give me so that long explanation of the word Vatapana. What?
Yeah, I can't drag that up at the moment. I'll have a look at it again, but it doesn't mean it's some. Yeah, it doesn't mean that word. But I will look at that for you. I did go into it one time, but I can't remember exactly now what translation I did come up for it. It's even like the word santirana. Santirana does not mean investigation. It doesn't mean investigation. That's another example. We'll perhaps leave that for the time being, but it's as Sarah pointed out, so vipakachita, santirana, as opposed, santirana is a vipakachita. So it would not make much sense that it's quite complex because santirana performs many different functions. It can be rather confusing, and you have to look at it very, very, very carefully. So perhaps I'll leave that one for the time being. Vatapana, as Sarah pointed out, also is a kiriya chitta. It's merely a functional chitta and relates to manodvara vachana. So we cannot, I'm just trying to remember, I'll look into it more carefully for you, Tadao, and try and come up with a translation that makes some sense. But as also has been intimated today, when we look at these words and we get the translation, it doesn't mean to say that necessarily that's going to help with our understanding, but it can be helpful in a certain way. There's no question about that for me anyway. But I will have a look at it for you anyway and see what I can come up with.
Okay, thank you. What I need is explanatory translation, not just one word translation. But
yes, totally. And that's a very good point too, because often what I find when I look at words, the root or the dhatu of a word helps you to explain it a lot. Like, for example, when we look at that word, I spoke briefly about this the other day, like pakatupanasya, which is composed of those three words, because when people hear that, they think, oh, dear me, what's all that about? It comes from pakati, which means habitual. You can use many different translations for it, but and the Thai, it's bokati. So it comes from the root kr, to do. So it's an accumulated habit that's done time and time again. Pa, and it's got the prefix pa in front of it. So you can go into it in quite detail. In upanasya, that has another root again, because upa is just a prefix. You can go into it, and it does, and I find it is very helpful when you look at that word, even as I said, because I'm more familiar with that one, having looked at it just recently, pakatupanasya, which means the habitual supporting condition. So what's habitually done supports the next moment by way of that condition. So we can look at words more carefully, and instead of just hearing these words, we think, oh, dear me, what does that mean? And as you said, looking at the in close detail can help you understand that word more closely. And Vatapana, I know it has something to do with awa, but I think I'll leave that for the time being because it's not so valuable perhaps for others. And I will get back to you though by way of email and let you know and want to look at it more carefully.
Hi, Sarah, how do you translate personally? How do you translate Vatapana into English?
Usually if I'm talking about the cheetahs, I just say it's another kiriya cheetah, and I don't try to translate it because I think it's very difficult to find a translation. Okay. Or I just mention that it's the Manodwara Vajana cheetah. It's a kiriya cheetah that just performs a particular function of separating the vipaka cheetahs and the kusala or akusala cheetah that follows. Yeah. Go ahead,
but it still sounds like determining whether following.
It doesn't matter actually what word is used, even if I was writing it, I might put determining because it's just the common English translation. And actually, it's more about the understanding than the word that's used. Because if there's no understanding of what a Kiriya Chitta is and how it is different from Kusala, Akusala, and Vipaka Chittas, it doesn't matter what word is used, it's going to be misunderstood. And the same with Sampatichana. Investigative is just one word, but actually whatever word is used in English, it won't be accurate to explain that Sampatichana. So it's not actually just a matter of finding the right word or minding when a translator uses a word that one doesn't think is accurate. It's more about understanding the nature of that chitta and what its conditions are and what its function is and how it manifests. To me, this is more important. So I don't really mind too much about the translation. And when I read a translation using terms that I might not use, I don't really fuss about it because I'm more interested in just understanding the dhammas themselves. Otherwise, one's always being bothered by different translations.
I think you might have got a little bit confused there, Sarah. You said some Sampatichana, it relates to investigating.
Santirana, yes.
Yeah. So Sampatichana, and that's quite an accurate translation. It just means I'm trying to remember myself. Yeah, it's receiving. That's right. Or it's like an acceptance,
yes.
Like accepting that particular reality. But some of these translations, I agree, can be quite misleading. Even like I know we've talked about this word just recently, the word like sahajata pachya. Sometimes translated as co-nascence, and I think that's quite an awkward word. It just means born at the same time. And so, because sometimes when people hear these different words, there's other words like contiguous for anantara pachya, and these words are never used in English, and I don't think they're particularly helpful from the way I read it. If you consider sahajata more relating to it's born at that particular moment.
I think that's what co-nascent means, like nascent
that's right,
means
yes,
born and co. But,
yeah, I know that.
But in any case, that's...
Please let me finish, please let me finish, Sarah, and then you can have your moment. I'm saying that the words can be misleading, but as Sarah has alluded to, that this is not so vitally important, but it can be helpful for some, and I know it can be helpful for myself. When you look more closely at a word, then you can get a better grip for what that word relates to in reality, can do. Because if we're using words that seem very strange and don't seem to fit, then I don't think that's particularly helpful. And I think what happened in the case of Watapana was that people thought that chitta must be, because their lack of understanding of Abhidhamma at the deeper level, they use that word because that's the chitta that immediately follows the jhana process. And that would seem to make sense to them. And so that word is stuck. Well, we know that these sort of things can be misleading and unhelpful because that's not the reality at all. Okay, please continue, Sarah.
No, I was just saying sahajata, co-nascent. For me, I have no problem with that because it's co-arising together and it's born at the same time, as you mentioned. But I just think that whatever terms are used, whether in Pali or English or Thai, it all has to come back to the understanding of the reality. Otherwise, anything will be misunderstood. So even karma or vipaka or any term will be misunderstood. So that's why we discuss and consider and reflect on the meaning of different dhammas. Otherwise, it's very easy to get preoccupied with the word and forget that it's referring to a particular reality to be understood now.
It sounds like the Bodhapana, it's transitional. It's a necessary
It's necessary. It has to. The vipaka chittas cannot be immediately followed by the kusala or akusala chittas. And the bhavanga chittas cannot immediately be followed in the mind or process by kusala or akusala. There has to be the kiriya chitta first. So we say adverting to the object, which is literally correct, but there has to be that kiriya chitta first. And when one reads the details, the kind of explanations about why the Vipaka Citas cannot be followed immediately. And so all by the nature of different conditions, it has to be that way. And so it doesn't really matter what that Kiriya Cita is translated as, it's just a Kiriya Cita.
I think what you said, that translation you gave then, Anne, that's quite a good one, actually, transitional. I think it's definitely more helpful than determining, which is, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
But as Sarah says, it's not the word chosen so much as understanding its function.
Yeah, I think Sarah's explanation is very clear. So vipaka cannot be followed by kusala or akusala. So that's the point, isn't it?
Right. So there's a reason why a particular kind of citta has to arise at a particular time. By the first citta in the sense door process after the Bhavanga cittas are interrupted has to be a Kiriya Citta, the Panchadwara Vajana Citta, before the Vipaka Cittas can follow. But it's just one Kiriya Citta.
Hi, Sarah. I'm sorry. I'm very tenacious because in my book, which I'm working on right now, I explain Otapana as a determining citta. So that's wrong.
Well, maybe you can use a transitional or a functional citta, because functional is a translation of Kiriya, a functional citta, or explain that even though it's usually translated as determining, it doesn't actually determine, except as a citta that has to arise in order for those kusala and akusala cittas to follow. But I'm sure, like even in Abhidhamma in daily life, I'm sure Nina uses determining. It's just a common translation. So it's not really of any importance. The point is to understand what Kiriya Cittas are and what the function is and how it's different from kusala and akusala cittas.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good morning. I'd like to bring up something that was discussed on DSG about, I think it involved Tam Tan, and when there is seeing, I think Tam Tan said that she could just see Achan, but and I put something on DSG this morning that at the moments of seeing, all that is seen is the aspect in the galapa of visible of color. So to say that it is someone or something is quite incorrect, because it is so fast and it is only that moment, and the galapa, both cittas arise so fast and fall away so fast, and likewise with the galapas, they fall away a little less fast, but there is never knowing that it is someone or something at that moment. It is just color, and then it's gone. And then there's immediately following that, there's the mind door process, which has the same object. And then after that, there's many, many, many moments of many mind processes that just then, in the end, we put it all together and make up a big story. But that one moment of seeing is just color. I don't know if that helps you, Tan Tam.
Just that which is visible at this moment. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
No person in it, no building in it, no plant, no picture, just that which is visible.
Yeah.
Yes, the reason why I asked the question, Azita, because Sarah explained that the object of understanding can be understood by way of nimitta. So whatever I see on the computer screen, I see Achan, I see Sarah, I see John, I see you. There are many, many pictures. But if I just direct, like pay attention to the picture of Achan, because that's the one of the nimitta. So is the picture of Achan, is that my object of understanding? That's what I mean.
No,
because you can never actually see, because it disappears straight away. Whatever you see is just the nimitta only. Am I right?
Yes, the nimitta, but I think even that first nimitta is really difficult to see. I think it then becomes a bit blurry because there's so much ignorance, and then I think at that moment when you think you're seeing Achan or anybody else, it's just a lot of thinking then. It's not actually seeing, it's thinking.
Right.
That's my understanding.
The seeing falls away so quickly. And
so
what
there's
is
no
seen,
way
the
you can
visible
see.
object.
Sarah, so there's no way you can see anything. There's nothing. It come and disappear. Not even the color like Azita suggested.
No one can see, no one can do anything, but at a moment of seeing, visible object appears. If there is understanding of visible object directly, it is the nimitta of visible object, just that which is seen at this moment. But at this moment, the visible object that is seen is not a Jan or anyone, or not a picture on a computer. It's
not
just
even the
that
color.
which is visible.
So it's not even the color.
Even when we have an idea of color, like red shirt or blue scarf, it's thinking about it. It's not just that which is seen at this moment. So what is seen is not anyone or anything. No matter we're talking about the seeing of an ant or the seeing of an elephant or the seeing of a deva or the seeing of right now, not anything that is seen is just that which is visible. We can say color, but even then people immediately think of this color, and that's not seeing of what is visible.
Yeah, that's right. Because when you say color, there's blue, white, red.
Yeah,
purple.
and then again, it's not that which is visible at this moment. It's an idea, a concept about what is seen. And no matter whether what is experienced now is visible object or color or blue color, it is nimitta, but the nimitta of the reality is just that which is visible, not anything or any person.
Right.
So this is why life comes back to this moment, and we begin to learn that what we think is seen is not what is seen. What we think is heard is not what is heard, because what is heard is just sound. It's not my voice or anyone's voice. It's just sound that is heard for a moment. And then instantly there's the idea of tone and volume and quality and words and meaning and so on. And the same with what is seen. Instantly there's an idea of particular shape and form and color, and then something, someone. So what is seen is just what is visible for an instant and then gone.
As soon as
and sorry, so I was going to say that's what the vipalasas, or this chitta vipalasa, is all about too, that we have this distorted vision or distorted idea about what appears, and this is what of course compounds the idea of wrong view. People really believe that there is something there, and this is what vipalasa is all about: chitta vipalasa, ditthi vipalasa, sanya vipalasa, and so on. And we've talked about this word just recently, which just means a completely wrong idea of what is experienced at a particular moment.
As soon as you start thinking about what color you're into thinking, you're into a different territory because all that can be seen is the visible object.
Wow. Yes, thank you. It's very deep.
And even before there's an impression of red or blue, it is thinking, even not in words at all. No, but just a sense, like even for an ant, no thinking in words, but there's thinking, an impression of this taste or that taste, or this color or that color, or this sound or that sound. So instantly it's the world of panyati concepts. It's not the reality of sound that is heard or visible object that is seen. So one sense door process followed by many, many mind door processes, countless mind door processes. So this is life at this moment, just one world at a time, visible object appearing for a moment, and then countless ideas about what is seen. And the same with sound or taste. That's why when we were talking about the taste, no matter it's the taste experience, is kuslo akuslo vipaka, is inconsequential because it's just a moment of experiencing taste, but then followed by so much thinking, so many impressions about different tastes and what is liked and what isn't, and so much clinging, following it. For what is tasted is just taste for an instant and then gone.
That's why often visible object is used in place of color. We hear both, but visible object just implies that which can be seen, whereas color is going a step further. I mean, it's often referred to as color, but in fact, it's just what is visible.
Right.
That is
what is seen right now, what is visible, that's it, yes.
I think that also, Anne, that when we use the word wano, which is a word that's sometimes translated as that which is seen, is valid enough. And I think what you were saying, and I think what Sarah was saying a moment ago also, it's not so much the word, it's the understanding. So I don't have a problem with the word wano being used for color or even for visible object, because I don't think it really matters. It's again, it'll be the understanding. For some people, it may be more helpful, and I don't obviously have a problem with that. But again, it will come down to the understanding. Whether we use the word practice or whatever word we use, it'll always come down to the understanding. It's not so much the word. And the Buddha said that very clearly when he said, "Atamhi natu saranam wayanjanam." So it's the meaning that is the protection, not the word. So it'll always come down. So that's the atta, which is the meaning or the benefit or the advantage. That is the protection. That is the sarana. That not the word. And we've kind of agreed to that before. So I don't think it really matters when we talk about the word wano or rupa ramana. That's the common word that's used, Intl.Dhamma, rupa ramana. That can be helpful for some people or most people, because I've heard that a lot and they've associated that with visual object. But I don't think it really matters if you use the word one. If people know what that means, then that can be helpful for them too.
I have to say that for me, and this is just one person, I found once we started referring it to, I think I understood what we meant by color before, but when it started referring to it as visible object, it clicked better. And it's an individual thing.
So I remember we had a long discussion about this in Sri Lanka, and the conclusion was visible object is more accurate, but but like Sundara says, it is just a word or a term, but what is seen at this very moment.
At this point, it's not a reality to us if it hasn't been experienced as a reality. It's intellectually known as a reality, but
just a few moments. So Jan, would you like to add anything before we finish?
So it does not depend on the word, but the word can bring about the understanding what it means. For example, there is seeing right now. See, no one has doubt about seeing, but what is there is seen is what we are talking about with different words, that's all. right? That which is seen is now there. Depends on what word we use for it. It doesn't matter at all. And so it is a reality which cannot be taken for anything because it just appears at moment of seeing as it is. Nothing in it at all. That's what we mean by the word whisper object of color or what is seen. The truth is that it's there now. To understand a little more until there can be more confidence of actually there's nothing at all, only that which is seen. Because just close one's eyes, it's not there anymore. What we take for things and people, nothing.
Ajahn, so how Panya can see that?
Develop understanding of the truth of what we are talking about as it means. That which is seen. See, what is seen? Only that which impinges on the eye base, because no one can see what is there at the back. So what is there which impinges on the eye base? Is it like a table or flower? Can that impinge on the eye? Or only that which is seen little by little, more and more, until it appears as nimitta, that's all. Now it is nimitta. Without seeing, can there be nimitta? And without just a moment of seeing, arising and falling again, on and on. It conditioned the shape and form of that which is seen as something taken for permanent thing, never fall away at all. And that is wrong, because the truth is that what is seen cannot be there after it is seen. Is that right? Just consider whether it's right. And that is panya, which understand the truth of what is heard and what is appearing.
Rude to speak over people.
สวัสดีค่ะ
Sawadee ka.
Sawadee ka, Ajahn. Thank you
Thank
very much.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.